Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Park. Welcome to Turning Leaf Field Notes, episode 7. Not long ago, I was at a conference standing in a registration line, and the woman next to me asked the question everyone asks: so what do you do? I opened my mouth and genuinely didn't know what answer to give. I've been a school psychologist for 29 years. That word has been my answer to that question since before some of the people in that line were born. But I'm also building something new now, and neither answer felt complete. I ended up saying some clumsy combination of both, and I remember thinking on the drive home how strange it was that a simple question could stall me like that. It happened again a week later, filling out a form at a new doctor's office. There was a line for occupation, and I sat there with the pen hovering for longer than a form like that should ever require. Neither title felt right. I ended up writing both with a slash between them and felt a little ridiculous about how much that one line unsettled me. If that's ever happened to you, I want to offer you some actual psychology behind why letting go of a professional identity is so much harder than it looks from the outside, especially for those of us who built our whole adult lives around one. There's a concept from personality psychology called self-complexity theory, developed by psychologist Patricia Linville. The idea is fairly simple, but the implications are significant. Think of your identity as made up of many separate compartments or self-aspects: mother, friend, reader, neighbor, musician, teacher, whatever they are for you. Linville's research found that people whose identity is spread across many distinct compartments tend to handle setbacks in any one area with more resilience because the other compartments are still standing, still providing a sense of self even when one area takes a hit. But people whose identity is concentrated heavily into one dominant compartment feel a much bigger blow when that particular compartment is disrupted, because there's simply less structure left standing to hold them up. For many of us in education, the teacher compartment wasn't just large, it was load-bearing. It absorbed how we spent our time, who we spent it with, what we talked about at dinner, what earned us respect and identity in our communities, even how we introduced ourselves at a registration table or filled out a form. A job that demanding doesn't leave much room to build other compartments alongside it, simply because there aren't enough hours in a week to be a fully developed painter or gardener or whatever else may have called to you, when grading and lesson planning already claimed your evenings. So when that one compartment ends, it doesn't just quiet down, it can feel like the whole structure is exposed, because in a real sense, so much of the structure actually was just that one compartment. There's a second piece of this worth naming from developmental psychology this time. Psychologist Erik Erikson and later researcher James Marcia studied how people form identity, and they described something called identity foreclosure. When someone commits early and firmly to a role or identity without ever really exploring alternatives, often because life got busy or a path opened up and simply made sense, and there was never a compelling reason to look elsewhere, many of us became educators this way. It fit, it mattered, it demanded everything, and we never had much reason to ask seriously who else we might have been. That's not a flaw, it's simply what happens when a role is all-consuming and meaningful at the same time. The trouble is, identity foreclosure means the exploring gets postponed, not skipped. And for a lot of women, retirement is the first time in decades life is asking that adolescent feeling question again. Who are you, really, underneath the role? It can feel disorienting to be doing that kind of identity work in your 50s or 60s, sitting with a question you thought you'd answered 30 years ago. But it isn't a sign anything went wrong earlier. It's simply a chapter that got deferred, showing up now instead of when you were 22. None of this means the compartment you built was a mistake or that it should have been smaller. Teaching asked everything of you because it mattered, and it should have mattered. But if letting go feels unusually heavy, this is probably why. The compartment that's ending was never just one part of you. For a long time, it was doing most of the load-bearing work, and it's reasonable that removing it would make the whole structure feel unsteady for a while. Here's the question I want to leave you with. Think back over the last 10 or 20 years before all of this began shifting. What other compartments of yourself were already there, quietly, even if teaching didn't leave them much room to grow? A curiosity, a version of yourself in a friendship, a skill, an interest you kept meaning to return to on some future Saturday that never quite arrived. You don't need to rebuild your whole identity around one of them today. Just notice that they existed at all, even in miniature moments. Don't rush to answer with certainty, just see what surfaces. If this resonates, join me again here on After the Classroom. We'll talk about the emotional, psychological, and practical sides of the season, and together learn how to build an identity with more than one load-bearing wall. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, I've created a free private Facebook community, also called After the Classroom, where educators walk with one another through this transition. I'll put the link below. I hope to see you there. Until then, I'll see you in the next field note.